Mangwana ni malelepo vukenjani class vanave Africa Dumela, and welcome to Africa Good Morning, the news and current affairs show that remains your portal into Africa's most potent stories. These are some of the stories we'll be looking at from the continent. Zimbabwe secures seat on United Nations Security Council. And in the same breath, Mnangagwa defends position as Constitutional Amendment Bill 3 reaches Parliament. United States continues Kenya Ebola facility preparations despite court orders. South Africa to send envoys into Africa following xenophobic violence in the country. And we'll also be bringing you news videos of the week from Namibia, as well as Jackson Karipo, an incredible Namibian visual artist, creative artist that I had the opportunity to speak to in last month's Namibia-EU Business Forum. So, plenty to come on Africa Good Morning. My name is Ashwin Betty. Top stories shortly.
Namibia is a land of movement, with waves that never stop reaching forward. Here, adventure is not something we search for. It is something we are born into. In every corner of this country, creativity rises, from artists, from athletes, from dreamers. And when the world comes to explore Namibia, they discover something extraordinary. Because when sport moves people, creativity moves ideas, and tourism moves the world toward us. Something powerful happens. A platform where movement meets imagination, where industries connect, where opportunity grows, where Namibia's next chapter begins. Welcome to the Creative Sport Tourism Expo. Exhibit, partner, experience. Creative sport tourism.
The United Nations General Assembly on Wednesday elected 5 countries to serve as non-permanent members of the 15-member Security Council. Zimbabwe secured the African group seat unopposed and will be joined by Austria, Kyrgyzstan, Portugal and Trinidad and Tobago for a 2-year term beginning on 1 January 2027. The election represents a historic moment for Kyrgyzstan, which will sit on the Security Council for the first time since joining the United Nations in 1992. Germany, which had campaigned strongly for a position, finished third in the contest for the 2 seats allocated to the Western European and Others group. Zimbabwe will take over from Somalia on the Security Council, the only United Nations body empowered to make legally binding decisions, including imposing sanctions and authorizing the use of force. Denmark, Greece, Pakistan and Panama will complete their terms at the end of 2026 and leave the Council. Bahrain, Colombia, the Democratic Republic of Congo, Latvia and Liberia will remain members until the end of 2027, ensuring continuity in the Council's ongoing work. The 5 permanent members retain veto powers. Very interesting if you consider that Zimbabwe is a country marred by sanctions. Now they will be part of a body with the power to impose sanctions. Who knows where they'll start or if they'll find that to be necessary at all. But we do stay with the country Zimbabwe internally. President Emmerson Mnangagwa has challenged disgruntled retired military generals and former senior civil servants over Constitutional Amendment Bill number 3, telling them that whoever wins, wins. Mnangagwa is pushing ahead with amendments that critics say would allow him to remain in power beyond the constitutionally stipulated 2 terms. Speaking on behalf of retired generals and former senior civil servants, retired Air Marshal Henry Muchena said 2 formal meetings with the president on 18 and 19 May 2026 failed to produce any results. Muchena said that after they raised concerns about the dangers of the constitutional amendments, including the alienation of citizens and members of ZANU-PF, Mnangagwa responded by saying, whoever wins, wins. Cap 3 was read in Parliament on Tuesday by Justice Minister Ziyambi, with the first and second reading set to be fast-tracked. Now, if passed, future presidents would be elected by parliamentarians, and delimitation responsibilities would move from the Zimbabwe Electoral Commission to a separate commission. M.Y.NA also alleged that more than $31 million had been set aside to, quote-unquote, secure legislators' support. Now we swing over to Kenya, where around 20 flights carrying medical equipment and specialist personnel arrived at a Kenyan Air Force base where the United States is continuing preparations for an Ebola quarantine facility despite protests and court orders suspending the project. At least 2 people have been killed during demonstrations in Nanyuki, where the U.S. military is constructing a 50-bed unit intended for Americans who could be exposed to Ebola. Now, a Kenyan court first ordered work to stop on the facility on May 28, but flight tracking data showed military aircraft continued landing afterwards. A U.S. diplomatic cable seen partly by Reuters said William Ruto, president of Kenya, may have underestimated public opposition to the plan, which has drawn criticism that the United States is shifting responsibility for caring for its own patients. Here is President William Ruto trying to break down the specifics of what's going on to Kenyans.
Ebola is a pandemic that is not confined to one place. And just for context, there has not been a single reported incident of Ebola in Kenya. Just for context. Yes. So the big debate is going on, but that is the correct position. Absolutely. Number 2, the Ebola situation in Eastern DRC is a source of concern for any country, including Kenya, that is mindful of matters health of its citizens. And the responsible thing to do when there is reports of such high-level infectious outbreak in a region where we have thousands of citizens, Kenyan citizens in DRC. We have soldiers in DRC. The most responsible thing to do is to prepare for any eventuality. And that is what Kenya has done. We have prepared ourselves adequately. We have taken command of all our entry points. We are doing testing of every person coming into Kenya from anywhere near that region. We are testing close to between 2,000 and 3,000 people from all our entry points every day. We have mobilized resources, testing kits, reagents, and all manner of people. We have trained thousands of staff, health staff, to be able to handle that situation. We have now isolation facilities, 23 of them across the country, in different parts of the country. And one of the facilities that has now raised a bit of controversy is the facility we agreed to set up in conjunction with the Americans in one of our military air bases. And why have we done that? We have a huge American military contingent in Kenya, number 1. Number 2, we have set up the 23 other isolation places in Kenya with the support of friends, among them the Americans, our own resources, but also with the support of Americans. The American government has supported us in this Ebola setup infrastructure, health infrastructure, to the tune of 1.8 billion Kenya shillings. And they did make a request to us to, in the process of setting up all the other facilities, to also set up one where they can use in the event that their citizens, their soldiers, some of them in Kenya or from elsewhere, if they are in a situation, then they can use that facility. For context again, even if the Americans had not set up that facility at the military base, if there was any American in Kenya, we would take them to a Kenyan facility. We would not throw them out, because the Constitution of Kenya tells us that we are responsible for the health of the citizens of Kenya, including those who are in Kenya at any one time. So what you see as a debate in Kenya is lack of information. You know, people who may not have enough information to understand what we are doing.
So that was President William Ruto explaining the specifics with regards to their agreement with the United States. Now here is Dr. Oz, who is an advisor to the White House, speaking to Americans.
On Ebola, if Kenya does end up blocking the U.S. quarantine facility there, and it seems like they might since the Kenyan courts are delaying it, where will Americans who have been exposed end up going? And then why can't they just come to the United States? I mean, I think you would probably agree that the U.S. has pretty good health care here. So where will they go, and why not to the U.S.?
Jennifer, the main issue with having a facility close to the Democratic Republic of the Congo is if a patient is sick. Again, I'll speak as a heart doctor. I want to take the patient to the OR that's right next door to the room they're sick in, not to the building next to them, or to 3 buildings 2 blocks away, because that time is precious to us. You have a golden hour in many of these instances around trauma, but for illnesses, it's also relatively short. So we are confident, and the State Department's working on this diligently, that they're going to be able to work out something with Kenya. There has already been a fair amount of communication around this issue. We have and that's about it. There's a UK base there. We have other people who might be willing to welcome us, and we have our German colleagues as well. So there's many places we can send folks, but sending them across the world, especially when we're not sure what's going on with them, is probably not the wisest move.
You are still with Africa. Good morning. Shortly, we are going to head into our weather predictions before we return with videos from Namibia. Now in Namibia, the executive director of the Namibia Media Trust Foundation, Zoe Titus, introduced the 7th African Media Barometer report. Elizabeth Kheibes provides this video.
Namibia is a land of movement, with waves that never stop reaching forward. Here, adventure is not something we search for. It is something we are born into. In every corner of this country, creativity rises, from artists, from athletes, from dreamers. And when the world comes to explore Namibia, they discover something extraordinary. Because when sport moves people, Creativity moves ideas, and tourism moves the world toward us. Something powerful happens. A platform where movement meets imagination, where industries connect, where opportunity grows, where Namibia's next chapter begins. Welcome to the Creative Sport Tourism Expo. Exhibit, partner, experience. Creative Sport Tourism.
Very frank report, everything on the table, and this is, I hope, going to be a catalyst for really robust debates on our media sector, our media and information ecosystem, because we are not having these debates honestly and truthfully. So let me start by introducing the African Media Barometer. For me, this is a passion project because I was involved in the development of the African Media Barometer way back in 2004. It was implemented for the first time in 2005 in Namibia, and this report, the 2026 report, is the 7th AMB report that we will be launching. So if you are a researcher, you're interested in understanding this very complex and at times fragmented media and information ecosystem, you have 7 reports where you can potentially extract trends, developments over time. That is probably the richest piece of information that you will be able to find on the African Media Barometer.
Now, as we look forward to the Creative Sport and Tourism Expo taking place in Windhoek, Namibia at the Hage Stadium from 2 to 4 September, we'd like to make sure that we spotlight Namibian creative artists on Africa Good Morning every Friday. And today we've got Jackson Karipo, a gentleman I had the pleasure of speaking with at the Namibia-EU Business Forum. He is a creative artist, but he's so much more than that. And we talk about his journey in creativity and his perspective with regards to the industry and, of course, his identity in the creative art scene in Namibia. That's what I'm going to be leaving you with. It's still me in the other video, so, you know, if you still want to see me, do stick around. But for this week, that has been Africa Good Morning on DSTV 285, GOTV 25, oneup2.com, Network Media Hub, and NTVAFRIKA.MY.NA. On Monday, we return as Mike Sichula delivers the Zambia report, and of course, we'll be bringing you the top stories from broader Africa. Until then, Swera Jakanaka. I am now joined by Mr. Jackson Karipo, a creative artist who is right here at the Namibia-EU Business Forum, because as you know, the creative industry is not a micro industry, it is a macro industry, and we're always excited about everyone participating in it. Mr. Karipo, how are you, sir?
I'm fantastic. How are you, my brother?
I'm good, I'm good. I'm looking at your wonderful art. It is incredible. I'm seeing abstract pieces. I'm seeing symmetrical pieces. The first thing I'm curious about is, how did you start?
It was, how should I say? I was born to be an artist.
Wow.
Yes, you know, like I just imagine from trying to become an architect, studying diesel mechanic that I could not fit in, and eventually going for graphic design. But then the final decision was a doctor telling me to say, Jackson, your eyesight is going bad. And a lot of other things. But then the final decision was, Jackson, what are you very good and passionate about? That's how today I can tell you that I'm a very passionate artist.
Wow.
They chose me. I did not choose art.
Yes.
Yes.
Art chose you.
Yes.
And you know, when you work with more than just the craft itself, you're working from a place of purpose. It's something you can do forever.
Yes.
Without a doubt. And so you're here at the Namibia EU Business Forum with your creative work. Tell us a bit about it.
Oh, okay. Last year, the Estonians were here. You know, like the culture and heritage event that took place at the Vani Hotel.
Yes.
They, at the end of the day, they ran a competition. And our group, the Creative Field, we actually won the prize, first prize.
Wow.
And they chose us to represent the company.
All right.
Yeah, the heritage company. And because our art was actually the overall winner.
Wow.
So I'm actually representing not just myself, the creator, but also like the people that kind of believe in the art.
Wow.
Yes,
that's incredible.
Yeah.
And what's it been like for you navigating the creative economy? We know in Namibia we're still struggling with structure. There is energy.
Yeah.
What's it been like for you as an artist who makes a living from their art?
I have to tell you, art is that profession that nobody believes in. But we all know that art is one of those careers that is actually up there, the pinnacle of everything creative around it. Now, when you kind of like fight a stigma to say, when you're like in the creative field of an artist, it's almost like the world does not believe that it's
a real thing.
Yes, it's a real thing. But I have to tell you to say, take any career, whether it's like architecture, whether it's like a doctor, whether it's like the guy building the building, or the guy that is like a building that famous building, who's behind it? It's the creative person that is an artist.
Person.
Yes. You see, like I just imagine, even like with today's health sector, you know, like the best doctors, they could not really just focus on the academics.
No.
But you know, like the hand material that they're using, the equipment, who designed it?
The artist.
The artist, exactly.
Wow.
So art plays a pinnacle role to say, whatever you are, whatever creative field you are, you're playing a very important role.
So
now,
yes.
Now for me, being this, you know, like I just imagine, I'm kind of like, I call myself to say I'm like a dead guy in real estate.
What does that mean? Explain that.
Yes, real estate, you know, like I think when I was in school, you know, like the basic things was like food, clothing, and the house that you stay in.
Yes.
Now just imagine how many houses are all over the world, how many houses are all over Namibia. Now in every house, there's this piece that needs Jackson in it.
Yes. I love it. I love it. I love it. Before we wrap this up, please tell me at least about one of your artworks, whichever one you can lift to the screen.
Okay, because we're like the EU, we're talking about business. Can I talk a little bit about that guy?
Okay, tell us about that guy. We'll overlay him, no problem.
Okay.
Tell us.
Now that guy, you know, it's like the guy that we see each and every day. You know, the guy that is like selling eggs. You know, like hustling to make money.
Yes.
You know, that person is actually a personal friend. He comes to my studio, always thirsty because he's walking around. And I had to buy a lot of eggs from him in order for me to ask him to say, no, just post. Sit a little bit of my chair, so I can take a picture.
Yes.
But I never told you that I was going to create an art piece out of it.
Wow.
But if I can tell you, it's actually that guy that is selling eggs in Katutura.
Wow.
But as an artist, you know, I took that picture, put some chickens in it.
Wow.
The cock and the hen, put a bicycle in because, you know, he stays like a deep in Katutura.
Yes.
And most of his customers are like those guys in Kleine Cooper.
Wow.
A little bit going to
over the hills,
going to Rehoboth.
Yes.
Now, when you call him to come and deliver eggs, you know what does he do? He gets on his bicycle and go deliver. You know, like the pizza guys.
Art.
And when he comes back, it's very dark. That picture actually have like a picture of like the paraffin lamp.
Yes.
That we as kids used to, you know, like light our environment before the solar system was there.
Yes, indeed.
Now that light is actually the one that is making like a visible at night.
My incredible.
Yeah.
That is so.
No. That is what the creative person just took out of one tiny little picture that he took.
Expanded the entire world.
Yes.
And you know that's what you know Nina Simone would say. Artists have a responsibility to be a reflection of the times of their society.
Yes,
and I feel like that's what you're doing here. Thank you very much, Jackson. I've been talking to Mr. Jackson Karipo, an incredible creative artist.
Yes.
And if I'm to sum up our conversation, it's this. Art isn't just decoration, it is material.
It's material, very important, of utmost importance if I can say.
Of utmost importance.
Yes.